All right, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Matt Olson. I'm the director of the Taylor Leadership Institute, and thank you everyone for joining us today as part of the Leading Ladies campaign. And we are so blessed and happy to have Tenikka Hughes here with us as one of our leading ladies, sharing some best practices and strategies for leadership and just thriving and just being the best version of yourself. For many of you, hopefully you saw the postings we've had about this and found out a little bit about Tenikka and beyond the Emmy-award winning anchor and newscaster. Beyond that, Tenikka is giving back to the community with Tenikka's books for kids and having an impact in the community. But one of the most powerful things that has really resonated with me in terms of what makes Tenikka just one of the most dynamic leaders I've had the privilege of knowing and working with is the idea of really giving back in an authentic way. Tenikka, a few years ago, served as one of our featured speakers when we were meeting face-to-face pre-COVID at one of our award ceremonies. And Tenikka was just a dynamic speaker showing about how she gave back, starting at a young age. And at that event, I introduced Tenikka to a student of ours here at UNF, and Tenikka agreed to be a mentor. And within weeks, literally, this student's life was changed. Her whole mentality, her confidence, and just her whole, being and awareness of herself changed with Tenikka's words and actions, serving as a mentor. Since that time, Tenikka has stayed connected with our program, still serving as a mentor to Kelsey today. In our most recent practicum group of students. So what really stands out, and hopefully the message that I know that Tenikka will share today, is the power that each and every one of us has to make an impact. Because I know Tenikka has had a huge impact on our campus, and we look forward to hearing her speak today. So Tenikka, welcome back to UNF. I know it's Zoom, but we're so happy to have you here today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Olson. Thank you, Corey, for the invitation. I appreciate that setup. And it's been awesome for me to be connected with UNF and with your program. And even the semester I spent teaching on campus with Professor Ladendorf. So I appreciate being able to participate and come back and just share or pour into you all. It's an honor for me to do it. So when Corey invited me to speak for this Leading Ladies speaker series, she had to get some basic information. What's your bio? Do you have a headshot you can send me? And also she asked for the title. And the title that I submitted to her, if you saw some of the slides on social media, was Untitled. And I did that on purpose because I didn't need a specific title to have something to say today, right? And you don't need a specific title to be a leader. And so that's kind of how I view leadership. I think leadership can have many paths. Sometimes you are assigned a leadership role. Sometimes you kind of fall into it. And sometimes you step into it. And I think my life has been a combination of all three. So obviously, as you all may know, I am an anchor here with CBS 47, Fox 30 Action News Jax. And as an anchor, I am considered a leader in the newsroom. However, when you look at the hierarchy of a news station, like any business, we have general managers, we have a news director, we have executive producers, we have different people who are in management leadership positions, those official titles, and then anchors kind of fall under that, in that gray area, but we are still considered leaders and a lot of people look up to us. And so I think for me though, when I look back over my life and my career, I'll kind of focus on my career for the most part. I think that, I talked about the different paths to leadership. You can be assigned, you can kind of fall into it, or sometimes you step into it. And I think for me, for my very first job, when I started in this business almost 20 years ago, people started seeing me as a leader, I believe, when they saw the way that I moved, the way that I treated others and the things that I was passionate about. And that continues to this day. And so I remember once having a staff meeting, and here I am, this young, early 20s reporter. We're having a staff meeting and the bosses are talking, they're talking about different things. And here I am, I raise my hand and I ask a question that I'm like, to me, I'm thinking everyone has to be thinking this. And it was about something that related to the entire staff, or mostly my peers. And I asked this question and I just remember people looking around and like, oh, she asked that. And I did it in a respectful way, but it was just something that it was on my heart and my mind. And I figured other people probably care about it too. So I raised my hand and I asked the question. And I noticed that some people, the response that they had to me, it made people kind of stand up and take a little bit, take notice. Sometimes I remember I would have assignments and having deadlines and I'd be under the gun and I'm working really hard. And it just seems like, oh man, maybe she's not going to make this story. Maybe it's not going to air on time. And I will crank it out and I would get it done. And then people would take notice, like, man, this girl works really hard. This girl's really getting it done. And it would be just things like that. And I started noticing that people would come to me for advice or kind of start leaning on me. And they kind of looked to me as somebody that they considered a leader, somebody that inspired them, because leadership, for the most part, in a lot of cases, can really inspire people. And so I didn't necessarily at my age realize what was going on, but they actually gave me like these little nicknames, and I just became this go-to person in my newsroom. And when I continue to transition through my career, again, I said it's the way that I move, the way that I treat people, and the things that I really care about. So when I think about now, fast forward 20 years, the things that I now can look back and say, this is how I lead. I lead with my strengths. So for example, I am a strong journalist. I am nimble. I have a lot of tools in my bag. So I'm an anchor, but I also report. I field anchor. I can do investigations. I'm a huge community service advocate, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm somebody that my team knows that I'm a go-to person. If it's something that needs to get done, I believe that my team and my managers have full trust that Tenikka can make it happen. Tenikka can get it done. And that's something that people look up to. That's something that people look to me and say, hey, how did you get that done? People want to get advice from me. And also in my position, having the knowledge and the experience and these tools that I have, I use that information to give it to other people, to help elevate them, to help them feel empowered, because I know that they look up to me. In my career, I've been known, especially now, as kind of like this mom figure, this auntie figure, big sister figure to a lot of people in my work environment. And to me, that's such a high compliment, because it extends beyond, oh, can you help me figure out how to write better? Or, do you have any tips for when I'm going live? People come to me about life. If they have something going on with their families, or maybe just having a tough day emotionally, or want to share with me their wins. I have people who don't even work with me anymore who will text me like, hey, check this out, auntie, look what I did, with this sense of excitement. And it makes me feel so good to know that I've created this safe, trusted space that people feel like they can come to me. That for me is a form of leadership. You can lead with your gifts. So you can lead with your strengths, and you can lead with your gifts. My gifts include the fact that I have a high level of emotional intelligence. And I appreciated Dr. Olson for kind of touching on that. I really care about people. I have a genuine passion and a genuine compassion for people, which is important, especially in my line of work, where I cover and talk about humanity. And sometimes it's not pretty, and sometimes it's really difficult, or we're meeting people in some of the worst times of their lives. And so that part of me, that core of who I am, that really cares about people and can really lean into that emotional intelligence that I have to assess situations and how best to handle it, I lead with that. I think, especially as a woman, I know this is obviously the Leading Ladies series. I think as a woman, a lot of times you have this pressure to contain your emotions, or try to be this robot, or how can my emotions or my feelings about something play into stuff. I don't want someone to think I'm weak or too emotional. That's who you are. You can be a compassionate, caring person. You can be passionate about something, and it doesn't diminish your worth, your value, or your right to speak on it, to express it, and to move in that and let that use you. I remember years ago when I worked in Memphis, and I covered a lot of crime. There are a lot of, tragedies, and I had like a really, really rough week, and there was some stuff I covered for work. It was really, really, really tragic, and I just remember feeling like I'm at my wit's end emotionally. And I remember I called home and I was upset and I was crying. And at the time I had just got this sweet little puppy, and he was like all in my lap. And I called home and I'm just upset. I was sitting on the living room floor and I was crying, and I called home and I talked to my aunt. I was raised by my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother, along with my 3 siblings. And they're all back home in North Carolina. And she was just encouraging me. And I just told her, I said, because I felt like, man, am I having a breakdown? I just feel too emotional, and I'm thinking that, all these negative thoughts about the fact that the weight of like just those horrible stories that I had done that week. And some of them included child injuries and to children or death. And it was just, a lot. And I just felt weak. And I remember I called my aunt and I was just upset and I was crying. And I just told her, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm just kind of too weak and it's emotional. And then she just stopped me. And she said, you're human. You're experiencing life. You're experiencing people dealing with really awful things, and you're having a natural human reaction to it. And that's okay. And she encouraged me and she said, that is what will set you apart, because you're able to tap into this. You're not some robot with a notepad taking down information. You're a human being and you're processing this human experience. Go with it. And that's what will set you apart. So when you're on stories with other journalists, maybe you'll be coming from a different perspective than they will. And that use that in your storytelling. Use that to connect to the people that you're telling stories about. She said that you have to flip the way you think about it. You're not weak. That's your strength. And that will be your superpower as you continue through your career, because that's a part of who you are. This is a part of my authenticity, which is so important. I think in any space, not just in my news career, I think it's important to be able to tap into your authenticity and not shy away from it. So that was really a pivotal thing for me. And just hearing her say that helped me to reframe the way I thought about it. Because again, in my mind, I don't want to seem unprofessional. I want to make sure I'm buttoned up. And it wasn't that she was telling me to go to work and cry and be a nervous wreck and be on scenes falling all out and all that stuff. No, that's not what she was telling me. She was saying those feelings, use that weight of that, because if you are a stranger and observing this moment in time and this moment in people's lives, and these things come up for you, imagine what they're feeling, imagine what they're experiencing. And it is possible for you to relay the facts of a story, to get both sides of a story, to relay the information in an unbiased and professional way, while looking at it through the filter of being a human and conveying a sense of humanity, which is why I think in my career, I've really, over the years, I pride myself on tone. So when I read, when I anchor, when I report, I try to be so mindful of how I come across and making sure that the tone is appropriate for the story. I can't change the circumstances of what happened, and that's not my job to manipulate or change any news or facts. But I have the ability to control how I convey it to people. And that is so important to me. But again, that's me tapping into my humanity. People are sitting at home, people around the table, people are with their kids, and people who watch the news are some of these people who have experienced the thing I'm talking about, or maybe triggered by what I'm talking about. And that goes good or bad. And so that was so important to me to kind of lean into that. And so over the years, I've really embraced that part of myself. And even in my, I don't know if marketing is the right word, but when I look at, even if I was to write a bio of myself, a part of that will include I have a high level of emotional intelligence, and I'm known as a compassionate leader. That's a part of how I would market myself to people. And I never would have done that years ago, but I realized that's a part of who I am. And I'm gonna, own it fully, because it makes me special. And I think it makes me more effective at what I do. So you can lead with your strengths, you can lead with your gifts, and you can also lead with your passions. One of the things I'm passionate about, and you heard Dr. Olson mention, is literacy, youth literacy, and education. That comes from my personal story. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina. We didn't have a lot of money growing up at all, but we were always taught like the value of education. And we never were taught, at least we didn't put a lot of emphasis on material things. To this day, I still really don't. I really appreciate people and experiences. And so I think you combine those two things. And I grew up with women who constantly gave to our family members or gave to the community. I just grew up with that. I was surrounded by that. And so for me, the education component was particularly important because, like I said, not having a lot of money, I was able to go to get my bachelor's and a master's degree with scholarships, academic scholarships, because I was a rock star student throughout school. And I just kind of I love learning. And it started with me being a little girl reading books at home as a kid, even before I was able to start school. And so I remember how that passion ignited for me with reading. And I was able to take that and turn that into me being a star student. And it propelled me to be able to live out my dreams and do what I do today. And so, when I was, being here in Jacksonville, I love going to schools and reading to the babies. I love reading to kids. And talking and connecting with students of all ages, I have driven as far as Valdosta State and Bethune-Cookman. I've been to your campus to talk to students. I've gone to daycares and preschools and elementary schools all over Duval County and in Georgia, all over the place. With the pandemic, obviously I'm not able to do that as much, but I've done some virtual story times. I miss my little hugs from my little babies too. But an extension of that was an opportunity came to partner with the Jacksonville Public Library with their summer reading program. And they knew about me being out in the community and reading to kids. And it was kind of this natural partnership. And that's how my annual book drive, Tenikka's Books for Kids, was born. The library, every year they do the summer reading program, and they try to give out little gifts, prizes, and different incentives to the kids. And one of the things we wanted to do was to ensure that kids had their own little libraries at home, because a lot of kids don't have access to age appropriate books. And also during the summer months, kids aren't reading, they have the summer slide where you kind of lose what you learn in school. And we were thinking, well, we can partner and I can solicit people to donate books, and that I in turn give to the library. So over the summer, as kids meet their reading goals from participating in the summer program with the library, every time they meet their reading goals, they'll win a free book from Tenikka's Books for Kids. We started that in 2018, and to date, we've collected over 13,000 free books that for children in Jacksonville to have their own little libraries, because I remember how having those little books of my own changed the trajectory of my life. Something that simple really changed my life. And so I'm able to now lead and be the power behind this wonderful initiative, Tenikka's Books for Kids. And so that's me leading with my passion. I want to kind of wrap things up by saying this. In leadership, you also want to it's okay to embrace it. It's okay to embrace people seeing you as a leader. But it's also important to have balance. When people look up to you, when you know that people are expecting something from you or have high expectations for you and are really leaning on you to be the guide, to be the inspiration, to be their go-to person, it can be exhausting. It can be a lot of pressure. It can be a lot of weight. And sometimes it's weight and pressure that you're even putting on yourself, because you want to meet these expectations that people have of you as a leader. Find balance. It is okay for you to say no. It is okay for you to create boundaries. It is okay for you to take a break. It is okay for you to give, but have limits on how you give, how often you give, and just kind of create those healthy boundaries. That's something that as a working professional, I've had to kind of really adjust over the years, and just realize the importance of having just that balance. I used to feel guilty when I would have to tell people, no, I can't go to this event, or no, I don't know if I need to be doing this project. I would literally feel guilty and have so much anxiety, like, oh, am I letting people down because people really lean on me and rely on me? But one thing that it took me several years to learn is to have that balance and to fill my own cup. The last thing I'll say is, when you embrace it, but have balance. And the last thing I'll say is honor yourself. That's something that came up for me during the pandemic. I go to therapy, which is amazing, and I would advocate that for anybody. Seek out those resources and have those safe spaces in that support system. Again, it's about filling your cup as well. And in that process of therapy and some other coaching I was doing, I realized that some of the things that I know to be true about myself, I don't know if taking it for granted is the right word, but I was saying, if someone said, oh, I just love talking to you, you're so easy to talk to, I love being able to come to you for advice, I would go, oh, people always said that. People say, oh, you're so easy to talk to. you give, you're such a good listener. And one thing I would say is, people always say that about me. That's what I would think to myself. And one thing that I learned is take the time to honor that and don't dismiss it as, oh, that's just kind of who I am. Or that's just what I'm into. Well, people always say that I'm, a good friend. People always say that I'm so trustworthy. Take the time to tell yourself, and it's not about having an ego or anything like that. It's just in that private moment when someone gives you that kind of compliment, or in those moments where you realize that people are looking up to you and inspired by you or feel empowered by you, stop and just take that moment to go, wow, I'm so grateful that there's something about me that makes people want to look up to me. I'm so grateful that in this moment, I could be there for someone. I'm really grateful that I am known as a trustworthy, good friend. I'm so grateful that I have the ability to listen, or that people think I give good advice. That seemed weird for me to do, but it has been so fulfilling because, this is something that people pay money for. People pay money for leadership. People, pay consultants. People seek out therapists and other people and things. So sometimes it might be something that you just do naturally, and you could probably dismiss it. And in the process of dismissing it, not in a necessarily in a bad way, you just kind of so used to not really realizing its value. I want to make sure that you're realizing the value of who you are and what you bring to the table for yourself. And that has been so fulfilling to me to stop and say, I love that about myself, that people see me this way. I got a beautiful message from a former colleague thanking me for who I worked with a few years back. I don't work with them currently, but this message was pretty recent, thanking me for creating such a safe space for them while we worked together. And it made me emotional. And I just took a second to go, wow, I thought about the power of, there's something about me, my energy, what I said, or just how I made this person feel, that they considered me a safe space enough that they wanted to reach out years later when they were reflecting on it to tell me that. And so take that time to honor yourself. They talk about, you probably hear a lot of times people talk about giving people their flowers. Give yourself your flowers, because in leadership is so important. Like I said, to have that balance. And I think a part of that balance is appreciating yourself for all those qualities that make you a leader or make people look up to you, whether you're assigned, fall into it, or step up into it. Own the traits about you that make you the person to meet that moment, no matter the form that it comes in.
Tenikka, that was fantastic. And so many messages just resonate not only with me, but also with so many other lessons that we try to share with our students in terms of building up your brand, tell your story or someone else will. And personally, and I'll share this with the audience, one of the things that I find so powerful in what you bring to every conversation we've had, every event, every experience, is that energy, and that positive energy, that it's almost contagious. And I know it's a bad word now in the COVID area, but the idea of you can't help but be positive and be inspired by your message, because you have that much passion in everything you're doing, whether it be a Zoom webinar with the Taylor Leadership Institute, or the work that you're doing citywide here in Jacksonville, or that drive up to Valdosta to talk to some kids in the library. It's that much passion. It's that that care, and in every interaction I've seen that you've had with students has been not I'm here and you're there. You make every person that you interact with feel significant, and I think that's a really powerful message that our students can really extract from what you've shared and what you live, because many people can just talk a good game. You actually walk it and live it. So it's really powerful. So thank you so much for sharing today. I know we have some questions that we'd love to open up to folks in the chat box. If you have questions in the chat, please share them. We do have some questions that were shared with me previously as part of my class here at UNF. So Tenikka, what brings you the most joy in the work that you do? If you were to think about the work that you're doing, like what brings you the most happiness?
I would say probably at this stage of my career, two things. I love my babies. I love reading to kids and just not just reading to them, but for me, it serves two purposes, because I read and hopefully can inspire them to like love learning and love reading and understand the value of education, but to also be a possibility model. So they can look at me and say, wow, she came from similar circumstances. Wow, she came from a single parent home. Oh, she's a Black person who has done something that, she's successful and good at what she does. I want them to say, oh, wow, she's a girl like me, or wow, she has braids in her hair like me, or she looks like me, and I connect with me in some way. And I've seen that little spark in kids' eyes, or their parents afterwards will tell me, you don't know what this meant. Or even people stopping me on the street to say, my daughter, and this is women of, all races will say, my daughter loves you. My daughter is so inspired by you. We actually got a new employee yesterday who's going to be an associate producer. And she was working her way around the newsroom to talk to some folks. And they, she was like, can we, I was like, well, we can do a one-on-one, like thinking we're going to have a little quick Q&A session, see if she had any questions for me about like kind of getting started. And she was just like, can I just take a moment to say, oh my God, I've been watching you since I was in high school and I'm losing my mind right now. And she had like a total fangirl moment. And it was the sweetest thing. And she's watched me from the time I started in Jacksonville. And she said, you're the reason that I wanted to be a journalist, seeing you on TV. And so to know my impact on children in so many ways, that's something that I love about my job. And then I think I enjoy the art, storytelling and the function of being a journalist. But in this stage of my career, what I love the most is my impact on people in my industry. News can be a very toxic business for a number of reasons. We have deadlines, the type of stuff we cover, whether it's crime or whether it's a hurricane. We're not evacuating. We're sitting right here. We're bringing you the news. We have, deadlines and just a very, very demanding career. And then just like with any job, you deal with people and personalities. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's not always the best. And so for me, being a light and a safe space and a champion for people and someone who makes people feel empowered and strong and inspired or just encouraged, even if it's for a moment, that is what I value at this stage in my career. Like I said, the storytelling, the reporting, documenting history, I love all that too. But over time, that is what comes up for me the most, is the thing I'm going to take the most pride in when people look back at their news journey or their careers, and because of coming into contact with me, were made better or felt a sense of wholeness or empowered in some way because of me and any interactions. That's what means the most to me.
Wow. That is fantastic, and it aligns with so much of what you shared with that, that legacy that you're leaving along the way, and that's so cool. The new employee having that moment with you, very, very nice.
We had to get a selfie and a hug. I was like, oh my gosh, I felt a little old, but it was so sweet. It was so sweet.
Very nice. All right, so we have some live questions that are coming in.
Wonderful.
What is some advice that you wish you knew before you started your career?
Some advice that I knew, I think having balance. We a lot of times are taught that, you got to pay your dues, and trust me, I did. I've lived in, 7 or 8 states. I've moved around a lot. So in the news industry in particular, you usually start off in some random, things have changed. So sometimes people start off at higher markets, whatever, but for the most part, people who came in during my time, you get out of school and you try to find your job, and you send tapes from Alaska to New Mexico to California to New York. You send tapes all over the country and you hope you land that job. And a lot of times you struggle. My first job, I didn't even make $20,000 a year. I really, really struggled to survive and pay bills while doing this job in this high pressure environment, learning and figuring out what in the world am I doing in real life. I'm on people's TVs, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So learning on the job, and it was a lot. And in that time, I was away from family. I was living in a state all by myself, and I've lived in multiple states. I've lived by myself a lot since college. And looking back, and because of the type of career I'm in, again, we make a lot of sacrifices for the work that we do. It's not all glamorous. It's not all put on makeup and put on pretty clothes and get in front of a microphone. It's real. It's very real. And I remember things like, in my career, I missed like my little sister's prom. There were funerals that I couldn't go to or were denied through the company policy to go to. I had little boyfriends and it didn't work out because of my schedule or being long distance. And so looking back, what I wish I knew then was to make sure that you carve out time for balance in your personal life and just to make sure you're good personally. Because what I know now is when I'm good, the things that sustain me and boost me and make me feel recharged and refreshed that have nothing to do with work make me better for when I am at work. And so I think I wish I knew then, it's just that sense of, like I said, honoring yourself and honoring your worth and your value and just taking time just to make sure that you're checking in with yourself. And even if it's something small, if it's, you know what, on Friday, I'm going to go to my favorite little bakery in town and get a cupcake. I would do little things like that. I remember when I lived in Charlotte, when I worked there, maybe it was, I worked on the weekends and like 3 days a week. And so on my off days, I'm like, I'm going to a matinee. It's cheap. Nobody's in here and the popcorn's cheap too. And I created these little routines that maybe didn't seem like a big deal. Or, my husband and I, we might plan for like a really special, unique vacation. I'm actually off for a few days at the end of the week. We're going to go up to Rhode Island because I want to see fall. Y'all, Florida's great. Give me dead leaves and I want to wear a sweater and I want to wear booties. So I'm going to go get some fall. Okay. So that's what I've carved out for myself to do. And again, it makes me better and it's going to have me refreshed when I come back and I'll be ready to go when I need to be present at work. But I love fall. It's my favorite. The pumpkin spice drink down the street is not cutting it for me. I need some fall. I need some chilly weather.
I love it. Just make sure you come back. Okay.
I will.
Those winters up north I'm Bostonian, so it will get cold soon. So enjoy that fall. It's a great time to be up there.
I will.
Awesome. All right. So one of the next questions, what are some challenges that you face being a woman in a leadership position and as a leading lady? What are some challenges that you faced?
A few challenges. I think I touched on one of them is that feeling of how much of me do I show? And also I think I over my career, over the years in just different spaces, people making assumptions about me because I'm a woman, because I'm a Black woman, because I'm almost 6 feet tall. People might have these, oh, she's aggressive. Oh, she's this. Oh, she's that. And they don't know me. You do not know me. And I've come up against that. I think people making assumptions about me, that's probably one of the biggest things. I think you questioning how to show up, because of the way people might view you or the assumptions they make about you. And I've had things directly said to me. Okay, well, they think I'm emotional, or if I'm upset genuinely and have a right to be upset about something, or it's an issue or concern I have, and then you got to sit, you sit off to the side and you think, okay, I got to call up 2 girlfriends or talk to my husband and do a powwow session and come up with a strategy before I present this, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm being emotional or think that I have an attitude or some stereotype, oh, she's ghetto or whatever it might be. And that's not cool. It's not right, when the reality is, and I think I love that so many women are being more vocal just about, I can show up as myself and I can take up as little or as much space as I want. My voice matters. I have a right to present myself. And just because it might make, what I find is a lot of times, especially if I'm presenting myself in a way that I know is truly authentic and makes sense for the situation, a lot of times people project their own insecurities or their own things that they're uncomfortable with on you. And me going into spaces with that sense of confidence, like, the way I'm moving and the way I'm behaving and the way I'm thinking and processing this is appropriate for the moment. And just going with my gut and trusting that, and to show up as myself and make sure that my voice is heard. And if someone, because of their own warped filter, receives it in a different kind of way, that's honestly not my problem. And I think that's one of the challenges, especially as a woman, that you go through. And then sometimes I think feeling like there's a boys club and that you're not included. And so that's something that over the years I have come across. But again, at the end of the day, I can only be me. And that's the only person I want to be. And I found more times than not that who I am and how I present and how I show up isn't just enough. It is more than enough. It's more than enough. And it validates me. It makes room for me. And it puts me in a position, even when I'm not there, for people like a Dr. Olson, for example, when something comes up and you think of me, when I get so touched when people think about me for different events, or different needs they might have because because of the impact, because of their impression of me. They go, oh, you know what, Tenikka would be great for this, or I'm going to reach out to Tenikka for this. I think that's because of me showing up and presenting my whole authentic self. And I think that makes people connect to me. And so, but I do think that's something as women, we tend to shy away from, or we're not sure how much of ourselves to present. Should we dim it? Should we tone it down? Should we be humble? That's another thing. You're taught a lot of times, really be humble. Show up. I would say show up and show out, but show up and just be yourself, and just know that you have a right to take up space as much or as little as you want.
I love that, and I love the confidence, and I didn't even call it swagger, Tenikka. I love that in terms of that energy, and so many of our students that we work with, confidence has always been a big challenge, and in the social media world, worrying about putting yourself out there. And I love the idea of really having that presence and giving yourself that voice, and not worrying about what other people think, and having just really in the confidence, in the unwavering belief you have in yourself. And I think it's so powerful because, as I told many of my students, it's not bragging if it's true.
Exactly. And it goes back to what I said about honoring yourself. I self-validate. Okay. If I today, if I feel like, my dress is cute, whatever, I'm married. If I think I'm cute, my husband can't even tell me anything because I self-validate. Do you see what I'm saying? I love it. Honor myself, and I recognize things about myself first. So when other people do it, it just adds. It just adds to that. But I make sure at the core of who I am, I self-validate. And for me, that self-validation helps with that confidence. When you're unsure of yourself or putting yourself out there, people might not receive it. People might not like it. People might question it. Some people will be all aboard. But at the end of the day, I go back to saying, I'm honoring myself. This is who I am. I'm proud of the way that I show up, and I'm going to do it. And knowing that it might get mixed reviews, but have that confidence to self-validate, because that helps you when you do get the negativity to kind of counter that.
Perfect. I love it. All right. So a few of the questions went back to the theme of how do you find that balance? How do you make sure you don't become emotionally drained with work or get too emotionally attached? And I think you did a really brilliant job in terms of sharing everything from something small, like going to the bakery and getting a cupcake, which sounds like a brilliant idea right now, to a fall, weekend trip up to Rhode Island with your spouse. So I think you've really touched upon those perfectly, in the idea that building in time for you and sharpen the saw, and our students go through the Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that idea of filling your own cup before you can lift up and empower others. So I think a few of the questions have that theme, and you hit upon it perfectly.
And let me add, from a college kid standpoint, I know you're limited. You're probably not able to go on a vacation or for several days, whatever. But I will say this, another part that is so important is I have a safe and trusted group of people that give me wise counsel, tough love, honest feedback, and they really know me as a person. So I have this core of people who work in the business at the highest levels, network on down, that I can talk to. I have family members that I can talk to, my husband, I have an agent. I have these different people that are in my trusted circle. So depending on what my needs are or what I'm going through, and also I have a therapist. So if you have mental health resources on your campus, use them, take full advantage. So that's another part of that self-care, and that, making sure that I'm checking in with myself, is the people that I'm surrounding myself with. They are people who I think reflect the highest forms of myself, or who I aspire to be, and people who know me and I know will tell me things from an honest perspective. They're not yes people. They don't tell me everything that I want to hear, but they know me enough to be able to give me advice that I honor and respect. And I'm not afraid to talk to people and open up when I'm having a challenging time or really going through it. And like I said, from friends, family, to a therapist, I think that's important, or coaches like yourself, or programs like what you're doing. That's important too.
Excellent. So the next question comes from one student who shares, who do you look up to? And who is your mentor, or was your mentor?
I had I've had a few mentors early on in my career, and I'm at the stage now where I've become the mentor. So I'm mostly in that position myself and not so much having a mentor. When I go back to my safe space, I have some girlfriends and some guys, but mostly women. I have this amazing tribe of people who I think are the smartest, most amazing people that I get inspired from, when my tank is running low, that I can talk to them. I was having an Instagram chat with one of my girlfriends about something this morning, and she gave me like a little rah. So I have people that I can consult with and people that I look up to, even though we're peers in a lot of regards. So I think that's what kind of my mentorship looks like right now. It's more of a coexisting. It's more of a sisterhood and a partnership that I have amongst people who we've kind of vowed we're going to be there for each other and navigate our careers and our life and family life and things together. So it's more of versus having a one go-to person. I kind of have like an amazing group of people that I go to and who inspire me.
I love it. Your own personal advisory board. That's fantastic.
That's kind of how what it's morphed into. And then I have people in the business and just young people that I mentor who work all over the country, that people who reached out to me for advice or different things, or people that I've just helped in some way. Some they'll come and say, hey, can you review my tape? And I'll review them. I never hear from them again. And that's okay, because okay, I'm here. I don't mind if I can be helpful, if I can be of service, that's fine.
Excellent. Two people ask, how do you define leadership, or what does leadership mean to you?
What does leadership mean to me? I think leadership means responsibility, and it's not always something that you ask for. Again, I said leadership can be assigned. You can fall into it because people just designate you as the person that they want to follow or lead. I was the girl in college, a lot of times when we would have group work, team projects, Tenikka can be the group leader. And I'm like, nah. But they wanted me to be the group leader because they saw my work ethic. Like I said, it can be things about you that people will say, she's different. I'm trying to do what she's doing. And also, like I said, you can sometimes step into it. No matter how it comes to you, there is a sense of responsibility to the people that you're impacting and also to yourself. And so I think when I think about leadership, I think about that. And I think it's really, for me personally, it's an amazing opportunity to impact lives. When people view you as a leader, you are seen in a different stratosphere sometimes. You are viewed differently. You are measured differently. And, with that responsibility, it's a beautiful thing to know that it's my actions, my words, or even having a Zoom call like this could give somebody some little nugget or something that can change their life. I think it is absolutely incredible. And it's something that I don't take lightly. And I think that's why when you mentioned, which I really love, that something about me comes through for you in every interaction we've had, or something you just kind of notice about me. I love that, because I don't know what moment I might have. This could be the moment that I really impact somebody. So I don't want to miss it. And so I think that's a part of leadership, that responsibility, but then that sense of awareness about just how special it really is to change someone's life or impact someone or inspire someone in a positive way.
I love it. And it shows the power of those interactions, whether it be big moments, grand moments, or even just everyday interactions. The student asked, what advice do you have for time management?
I think for time management, first of all, I would say focus on what you can control. So there's certain things when you have an assignment or a task that's in front of you, there are going to be some factors that are just like beyond your control. So when you're thinking about what you have ahead of you, drill down, first of all, what is it that I can control? And kind of even list that. I'm a list person. That's another thing. I'm old school. I got pen and paper here now. I mean, I use my phone and stuff, but I'm old school. I'm a big list taker. So I like to kind of see it in front of me. That helps. Because sometimes, and I even, like my husband and I, some of my friends were laughing. We even have a shared Outlook calendar. Like, oh, you're flying here. We're doing this. Like, whatever it might be, it's on our little calendar. But put it down in front of you, have those lists so you can kind of visually see these are all the different tasks I need to complete. And then a lot of times, establish priorities from there. And things, what I found, because I can be so bad about procrastinating sometimes here and there, which is weird with the line of work that I have. But a lot of times I'll look at that list and say, what is something that I can do right now? And then what I'll do is, instead of saying, I'm going to get all 10 things on this list done today, I'll say within the next 48 hours, my goal is to tackle this. And I kind of break off the things that I need to do and break them off into smaller segments and smaller goals. And then also keeping in mind focusing on what the things that I can control. And what I can control is how I choose to prioritize whatever I need to get done in whatever the allotted time that I have. But for me, it helps to kind of break stuff down into smaller chunks. And most importantly, I like to list stuff out so I can just kind of see it, have it in front of me. And it's some satisfaction when I get to run my pen through it and take it off my list. I do find a sense of satisfaction from physically seeing it checked off.
That's great. And don't feel bad. I have my notepad right here as well. So it's good stuff. Excellent stuff. All right. Last question, and it does speak volumes. We had quite a few questions that were sent in beforehand, but the fact that we're getting 7, 8, 9, 10 questions is really powerful. The level of engagement is really off the charts for a Zoom session. I can't wait till we get to have you back on campus in real life. But the last question: what is something that you live by, whether it be advice or a certain quote?
Oh, that's a great question. What is something that I live by? I think for me, as much as possible, is I just try to be the light or the presence or the force that I want to see. And like I said, a lot of the way that I treat people and the reputation I have for being auntie, big sis, mama bear type of relationships that I've built with people is because I didn't always have that. And that was something that I told myself. When I look back, and if I stop working tomorrow, if I stop doing news tomorrow, the fact that a part of my legacy will be the way that I made people feel. And when they look back, hopefully over their time in their news career, I'm a bright spot. I couldn't ask for anything more. And so I think it's just being that light, being that force, being that thing that I want to see, being, you know what I mean, contributing to that. I can't change people's attitudes. I can't always change the world or circumstances, but I can be focused on how I choose to show up. And I think that's what's most important to me. And that's what I hope to be remembered by when people, and knowing I'm in a situation where I'm a forward facing person. I have a very public career. I'm a very real person with a public career. And so even if I'm out in the grocery store and people, oh, I just love watching you. When I go on vacation, when I'm off air, people send me messages. Where are you? Like my presence and it means something to them. They get something from experiencing me. And so the question is, what are they going to experience? And so if it's some kind of light, positivity, gratitude, appreciation, love, authenticity, whatever it is I'm giving off, I hope it's something that's positive and it leaves them better than when they started.
Wow. Okay. What absolutely perfect way to bring this to a close. And Tenikka, the time and the years that you've been involved with our program, your presence has been felt, and you've made our students feel significant. And even the time today, I know our students and myself and Corey are better because of your words and just your passion for what, you bring to every conversation. Also, on behalf of the TLI Leadership Institute, we will be making a donation to the Tenikka's Books for Kids drive when that happens this year. So we're so happy to have, this partnership, this collaboration, and really, your commitment to making a difference, not only on our campus for our students, but also in the Jacksonville community. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to our audience. And Tenikka, thank you for being such a powerful leading lady. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the donation. And we can chat offline a little bit about that. But again, it's full circle. Through this experience, you're giving back, and I can give back, and it's full circle. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much to you and Corey, and to all your students and everyone who tuned in and who will tune in. Thank you.
Thank you.